Hello and welcome. In today's video I'm going to show you how to make one of these cute little drawstring bags. They're very easy to make and you can make them in about 10 minutes. So let's get started.
Cut 2 pieces of fabric 9.5 inches by 8 inches, or in metric 24 centimetres by 20 centimetres. For the drawstring you can choose from either making your own ties or using ribbon. If you want to make your own, like I'm doing, you will need 2 pieces of fabric 24 inches by 1.5 inches. That's 61 centimetres by 3.5 centimetres. If you choose ribbon, you'll need a length 48 inches by 1/2 inch wide, or 122 centimetres by 1 centimetre. First, cut out your fabric pieces. I make a paper pattern for this. Remember that when you cut your lining, it needs to be 1 inch longer than the main fabric. On the outside fabric, we need to mark openings that we're going to leave for threading the drawstring through. So I'm going to mark 1 inch down from the top for the top of the casing, and 1 inch below that for the bottom of the casing. Then pin or clip your front and back pieces together with right sides facing. On the diagram, it is where the broken lines are that you should be sewing. Where there's no broken lines, these are openings. At your sewing machine, sew down both sides and the bottom, remembering to back tack at the start and the finish, taking a 1/2 inch seam allowance, and remember that you need to leave all the gaps for your openings. So there should be 2 gaps at the top of 1 inch for your casing, and then along the bottom edge there should be a gap of about 3 inches so you can turn your bag the right way out later. Pin your front and back linings together with right sides facing. Then mark about a 3 inch gap along the bottom edge. Now sew down the sides and across the bottom, leaving the top open and remembering to leave a gap where you put the marks along the bottom edge. Take a 1/2 inch seam allowance and back tack at the start and the finish. Clip the corners close to the seam line, but don't cut through your sewing, otherwise your bags will come undone. Do the same to both the lining and the outer fabric. Next, press all of your seams open on the main fabric and the lining. When you do the lining, pay particular attention to the bottom edge where you left the opening. You need to press the opening open. Turn the outer fabric the right side out and give a quick iron. Then place the outer fabric inside the lining. You want the outer fabric to be the right side out and the lining to be the wrong side out, so you end up with the 2 right sides facing. First, line up one of the seams and pin in place. Then go to the other side and line up the other seam and pin that in place. Then carry on pinning the lining to the bag all the way round along the top edge. It should all fit together nicely. Sew all around the top edge where you've just pinned, taking a 1/2 inch seam allowance, back tacking at the start and the finish. It's a good idea to remove your sewing machine extension table to do this. Makes life a lot easier. Turn the bag the right side out through the hole that you left in the lining. Use a pointed object like a knitting needle or a special tool to push out the corners. Then push the lining inside the bag, and if all has gone to plan, you should end up with 1/2 inch of lining showing above your main bag fabric. Give a quick iron. Next, we need to mark rows to sew on for our casing. So I first mark with pins the top of the casing gap, and then I'm going to draw a line with my dressmaker's chalk. I'm using dressmaker's chalk in this instance because I want to brush it off later, and I know that the dressmaker's chalk will brush off. Then I draw another line 1 inch below the original one for the bottom line of the casing. Now we're going to sew all the way around our lines we've just made for the casing. So sew all the way around the top line, back tacking at the start and the finish, and then sew all the way around the lower line. This forms our casing where we're going to thread our drawstring through, or our ribbon. To make the drawstrings, first turn under about 1/4 inch at each end of your long strips of fabric. Then fold both the strips in half down the centre to mark the central line. Then we're going to fold both of the sides over to meet that central line. So do one side at a time, fold it over to meet the central line all the way along to the end. Then do exactly the same to the other side, so the other side should meet the central line. Then fold in half on the central mark and iron all the way down, clipping as you go. Now sew down the side of the drawstring about 1/16 inch away from the edge, or as close to the edge as you can get. Do exactly the same to both of the drawstrings. Attach a safety pin to one end of your drawstring and then start at one side of your bag and go all the way around until you come back out where you started. Pull the drawstring through and that's one side done. Now attach your safety pin to the second drawstring and come in with that on the other side, thread all the way round, come out at the halfway point and back in again, and then carry on all the way round to where you first went in. Pull the safety pin out and that's your second side done. Pin or clip each side of the drawstrings together. I overlap by about, I don't know, 3/4 inch perhaps. Put a clip on and do exactly the same on the other side. Now take over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew backwards and forwards a few times on each side to hold the drawstring together. And now you have a beautiful drawstring bag with a contrasting top edge and matching drawstrings.
Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, could you please like and subscribe? Thank you. See you next time.